example, the Marie Curie, where the project is more your own project and with your ideas. And so that's the typical, the Marie Curie fellowship, or you can also apply for a ERC starting grant. That's normally a little bit after your PhD, because you need, Yelena will talk a lot about this because it's what is one of the grants she got. But normally the starting grant is up to 7 years after your PhD, consolidator, and then advanced grant. Then there are also national research projects for young scientists in Spain, I guess here too. And then there are fellowships. So where we have these 3, for example, so Juan de la Cierva, it's really for people after the PhD, 2 years. Beatriz de Pinós, that's specific for our region in Catalonia, that's 3 years. And then there is Ramón y Cajal, that is one of the fellowships I got. And that's a little bit after your postdoc, so normally in the 5th year or so on, it's for 5 years. And it's, you need more experience. And each of those ones, well, actually then in our region, there is also this ICREA position, which is like a full professor paid position where you can do the research in the research center that you want. So each of those positions are easily to get depending on different skills. So they could be ones that are putting more focus on the idea on the project, and others on the CV and your experience, and others on the host institution where you go. So you have to target your grant or your project depending on how is your CV going, right? So for example, if you are hired by a PI, if you're hired by a PI, so he would want somebody with the experience or expertise needed for the project. So we normally in ICRA, we have interviews. We interview postdocs or postdocs really recent after the PhD finalization. And we're really looking for a skill. So somebody that knows how to help in this project. But then there are others that, like the Marie Curie fellowships, where the research is more important actually than the CV. So they are also in the consolidator, and they're starting the consolidator and the advanced grant. The research idea is really the most important thing. On the other hand, for the postdoc fellowships, it's very important, the expertise, so the curriculum. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit better, how to build this curriculum to get this kind of fellowships. And the host institution is less important in these places, but so really, of them, Beatriz de Pinós, you need to write a little bit of the project, but mostly is your CV, so papers, grants, presentation in conference, and so on. And lately, a lot of public engagement too, so impact to the society. So how research quality and excellence is evaluated so far? So the output, so the traditional way of evaluating the research is basically counting articles really and knowledge, intellectual property and so on. No? And here there is this Hirsch index that I'm sure everybody is aware. So it's a number that counts how good are your papers in terms of citations. So the highest your H index is, it means that your papers have been cited more. So ideally you want to publish a lot, but also that these papers are used by other researchers and they are citing you. So this is a calculated number, that calculated index that is used for getting these bibliometric indicators that are really useful in these Ramón y Cajal and these fellowships that are looking really at your CV, so number of citations, journal impact factors, etc. However, we all know that all of them suffer from a number of well-documented deficiencies as a tool for research assessment. And there is actually all this list of problems associated with the use of these journal impact factors, for example, as they are not really so valid or so it's very, like, we need to simplify all these metrics to be able to evaluate researchers, but sometimes these metrics have been shown that are not appropriated. For example, in this is the journal where Mira Petrovic is the editor-in-chief, and basically it has a very good impact factor, 9.6. So it was very good, but if you go a bit deeper, you see that one paper was really cited a lot of times, but 15% of these papers were cited less than 5 times. So these bibliometric indicators are weak. So what's happening and how the evaluations are moving forward is implementing this DORA declaration on San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment. that what it means is that we need to forget about these indexes and all these metrics and really assess the research on its own merits. So putting research into context, also with the age of the researcher and the opportunities and so on, and giving merit to the opportunities that the researcher have. But that's slowly happening. And I have to say that so far I'm not seeing it that much, but it's the future. So we need to also implement a lot of these impact measurements and the contact with society, how these research that we are developing are reaching really the society and how this is important. That needs to be more included in the evaluation processes. So how do we do that? So this is to try to understand, it's like comparing healthy versus non-healthy research environments. So in a healthy environment, we want to collaborate, we want to do things that are useful, we work all together. And then, of course, at the end, we are competing in some way with other researchers, but it needs to be in a way that each research gets its own merits and it can be promoted. So, for example, one of these grants or fellowships in Spain, it's like you kind of need this grant to be able to apply for a permanent position. Without this, it's quite difficult. So it's a Ramón y Cajal fellowship. It's for 5 years. And normally, as I said before, you should apply for that 5 years after your PhD so that you have a CV and an experience and some skills that are already quite relevant. And how is it evaluated? So there is these 4 categories. So there is scientific contribution, which is the one with the maximum punctuation, where publications are very important, quality and impact of publications with all these indexes. So this needs to slowly be changing, but so far it's like that. Patents, participation, research problems. And then another very important criteria is the mobility, so that you have to show that you've been away, but also that you've been an independent researcher while you were away. So how many publications you did on your own when you were in another research institute far from your main supervisor of your PhD. And then there are other merits that I think that's what's going to gain more importance in the future. So contributing in books, teaching, awards, outreach activities. And then there is this 4th category, which is quite objectional, no? So it's the capacity. So it's the potential of this candidate towards to advance towards an independent research career. So you have to show the committee that you are able to create a group and to make it survive. So all are based on numerical indicators. So what I said so far, so number of publications, number of citations, number of patents. So really, these evaluators get an Excel sheet and they're just putting and counting how many of these things you have. And then there is a final score and they rank the candidates and they give the grants to the best ones. But international mobility is very important. And in fact, this story is in Spain, but in Spanish, but what it shows is that depending on how many years have you been in a foreign country, so a minimum 2 years to have the 15 points that you want to get the fellowship, because that's super competitive. So you have to be 2 years, 2 años, 2 years away, and you have to publish at least 2 publications on your own, where you are the scientist in charge, the corresponding or the first author. So, and from that, you get less points, but you really, to get this kind of fellowships, you need to be on the 15. So very, very important to move away from your country after you finish your PhD or a bit later. And basically all these again needs to be moving towards DORA. And in fact, I mean, it's much more difficult for evaluators to evaluate the curriculums based on DORA than on numbers. So that also has to be a change within all the system, but that we hope that's going to be getting there. So now I'm going to show how was it for me or how is it going for me, because I'm just in the middle, let's say. So basically, I finished my PhD in 2007. I didn't have a fellowship. I was teaching at university. I had to teach over 400 hours. And during this PhD, I also did some pre-doc stage. I went to the Netherlands and I went to France to do a couple of months or 3 months research stay, but that was also important because I got publications from these places. And then after I finished my PhD in 2007, I went to Australia. I was hired by a project, so I didn't have a fellowship either. So I went there to work in a very large project on water recycling. It was initially for 2 years, and I spent 6 years there. In between, I also did very short stays, one in Almeria, and then I went to the States with a very well-known professor. And basically, during these 6 years, I didn't mention here, but I think that my major contribution was that I was able to secure funding and to create a small group of people, which, of course, I needed help to start. So I was working with other professors so that we were doing teams, and it was successful for me. I was two large projects funded actually by the Water Research Foundation. That's an American institution, and it was also quite different. After that, after these 6 years, in 2014, I got the Marie Curie fellowship, and I came to ICRA, initially for 2 years too, because that's the fellowship duration. But then when this Marie Curie was finishing, I got the Ramón y Cajal, the one I was talking about, all the indexes and so on. That's for 5 years. And after that, I got in 2022 the permanent position. So as I said, between 2007 that I finished my PhD until 2022, it's a lot of years of uncertainty. It's important to say that I was successful on those, but I also was unsuccessful in some of them, some that are more important than others. So I applied for Juan de la Cierva just as for my PhD, I didn't get it. I applied for a fellowship in Australia, I didn't get it. I applied before getting the Ramón y Cajal in 2016. I already applied 2 times, failing. And I failed already twice in ICRIA position, and I don't have more opportunities for ICRIA because this is actually meant to attract researchers. So once you are in the permanent system, you are not allowed to apply anymore. So I don't know what will happen with me afterwards, but I got the permanent position in ICRA since 2022. So if you look at my publication strength, I think it's also interesting. So in the PhD, I have published, I don't know, 6, 7 papers from 2005, 2008, considering the PhD publications. In the postdoc in Australia, I start picking up a little bit, showing my independence, trying to build a curriculum so I would be able to come back to Spain. And then in the postdoc in Spain, between the Marie Curie and the Ramón y Cajal, more or less doing well, but you can see that there are 2 drops, very important, one in 2013 and one in 2016. So that's a prize for women in science. So I got 2 kids, and it's very, I think Yelena's graphic is quite similar to, I think you don't see that in male graphs of publications. That's the reality. So, but anyway, I don't regret. And after that, so I'm kind of less maintaining, I should be picking now that I have a bigger group and more people working, so it should get better. So what I'm doing right now, so I'm coordinating a project on the 2 first projects. The 3 first projects are funded by the Spanish ministry. So there are middle size, so I can have a postdoc in these projects. So it's good, normally 2 years. One of them is coordinated, where I'm the coordinator, and we work with another, with CSIC basically. And in red is the most important thing I'm doing right now. So I'm coordinating a European a project, an Horizon Europe, that it's called Into DVP, that it's almost 4 million euros, and it's for 4 years, and there are 16 partners. So what Laura was referring to, I really applied in my first time, and I was lucky, and I got the project, and I will talk about a little bit later. So apart from that, I'm participating in other projects like this one. And every time it's more important in our research institute that it's funded by the public system in Catalonia, so the Catalan Agency of Catalonia. So we are working with them to solve problems of the regional scale. So I'm leading and participating in some project with them. So that's the project that I'm coordinated. It started in December 2022, and it's for 4 years. And basically, it deals with disinfection byproducts. So disinfection byproducts, for those that you don't know, they are compounds that are toxic and that they are formed when you disinfect water with chemicals such as chlorine, for example. So water contains organic matter. If you mix organic matter with chlorine, there are DVPs being formed, such as trihalomethanes, which are the most famous ones, or haloacetic acids, chloride and chloride. Some of those, or most of them, have been related to problems with human health, such as bladder cancer mostly, but also low birth weight and other reproductive health issues. So this project deals about how to minimize the formation of DVPs in different countries, but most importantly, how to predict the formation and how to measure the presence of DVPs with sensors, which is really, I think, is one of the directions of the European Commission to go for sensors and to digitalize water, basically. So here is the picture of the partners. So we have research institutes and universities. Then we also have companies, so like SCAN, which they develop UV sensors, Aquasoil. Then we have Water Europe, that is a company that is basically in charge of doing the dissemination and the connection between partners and so on. It's very important because for us researchers, we do a tweet, but there is a company really after that trying to make all this diffusion. And actually we belong to a cluster of sister projects of the same call that it's called Zero Pollution for Water, where Water Europe is also leading that. So they're making a lot of efforts to make that these projects don't stay alone so that we can influence in policies and so on. And then we have industries, of course, like drinking water utilities. And in these projects, normally, depending on the call, but many times they ask you for international cooperation. And in this case, we have Virginia Tech and University of South Australia. So those are partners that are not paid by the project, but that they get recognition to be part of one of these projects, but also from their own countries, they may get some funding just for participating, and they do some little tasks. So that's a little bit how is the project. So there are 7 work packages. So the second one is the sensors, what I was mentioning. So basically, we develop sensors based on UV, on fluorescence, on mass spectrometry, but also toxicity. In the work package 3, we investigate or model the distribution systems. So how is the formation of these DVPs in distribution systems? There is a work package on treatment. So we develop technology to minimize the formation of DVPs. And we also investigate source adaptation options for source protection, and a lot of modeling based on climate change and how it's going to affect the climate change on drinking water quality. And then we have an exposure, human exposure work package that it's led by epidemiologists that investigate, things like why people drink more bottled water than tap water and so on. And then we have a whole work package, as I said, led by Water Europe, focused on dissemination, explanation, communication, and integration. So that's for the European Commission, super important. So here are some pictures of the consortium, and the one in the middle is from a case study board. So we do a lot of, to public engagement too, we try to. And the technological developments that we are doing in this project are mostly 4. Which are, the first one is we are developing bioreporters. So those are sensors that you can put in the distribution system and measure directly the toxicity of this water. Then fluorescence sensors base to predict the DVP based on fluorescence on the signal of the organic matter. Then models for the network to optimize not only where you put the sensors, but to understand what's going to happen in the distribution system. And then technology for removing the precursors and to optimizing the disinfection. And very important for the European Commission also to try to define, they already in the call, they tell you where they want the technology readiness level, the TRL. So in this one, it had to be between 2 and 4. So you don't want things that are ready for market, but also not too raw. So yeah, we are starting some of them depending in 2, 3, going up to 5, 6. So apart from that, supervising of coordinating of this project, that is what is really taking most of my time right now. So I'm supervising 4 PhD students. I'm reviewing, as many of you, journals and grants, attending conference, project meetings. I'm editor of a journal and invited editor right now in another. I participate in different specialist groups, such as the EVA or the Water Europe for water quality. We try to do outreach activities, and we are every time more forced to do that. And for example, going to schools and doing activities. I'm member of the ICRA Gender Equality Commission, also monitoring the scientific and technological services of ICRA, and I'm member of the Workers' Union at ICRA. And summarizing, so what are the pros of career in science So there is personal satisfaction, you're contributing to the frontiers of knowledge, you're helping solve problems, environmental, reduce contamination, improve human health. So it's you really go to bed thinking that you're doing something useful, kind of. It's a creative work, not boring. Every day is different. Involves high degree of innovation, independence, and there's always new topics. Flexibility. It's true that it's flexible working hours, which means that many weekends we also work. We'll see in the contrast. And we work internationally. So we're here today instead of being in our offices. So we work in an international network, we travel to conference, we have options also for sabbatical, so we can go 1 year or whatever to another institute to learn a new technique if you want, but there are also cons. It could be stressful. It's very competitive, super competitive, and you have to be very ready or used to rejection without taking it too personal. There is lack of job security until you reach a certain level. And there is no guarantee for long-term stable employment, at least in Spain. So there's constant pressure to obtain funding and to maintain your team if you have one. You work a lot. It doesn't work as 9 to 5 working days. So if you have, for example, for this coordination of the proposal, I work, I don't know, all the weekends mostly. And since I started working that in September, we submitted in February, and I work Christmas and I work almost every weekend. And it's not very well paid, the reality. And you can be a little bit frustrated when the hypotheses don't work on the experiments are not as you expected. And there is international mobility, which can be an advantage and a disadvantage, depending also in where are you in your personal life. And with that, I finished my presentation. So I hope I gave you a hint of how it's been my career so far. And if you have questions, I'm glad to answer you. Thank you. We have in ICRA is a research center, so we have a unit specialized for doing the routinary analysis, let's say, because then the researchers do their own analysis if they want something more specific. But there is a unit where we have 5 or 6 researchers working for the scientists. So there needs to be a communication clear between scientists and this service so that there is mutual benefits. Everybody. So that the services are, I mean, so researchers feel that the services are working in their own benefit, in the benefit of the scientists, but that the services don't feel too much neglected, no? So then there's a lot, it's very interesting commission where we try to make it friendly and to make that everybody's working for the same direction. So I'm leading that.
The online and that occurred.
So knowing what you know now or what you already did so far, would you have done something differently or?
Many times I think that I'm here by chance, kind of. I was not the type of person that when I finished the degree of I studied chemistry, I didn't know I was going to be a scientist. So it felt well at the moment, kind of, and I went to Australia because it felt well. And then, so I didn't, it may be very different from Jelena, for example, but for me it was a little bit, I need to like what I'm doing in the moment and feel that I'm useful, kind of, and then doing a job that is fulfilling. And one thing got to another. It's true that now where I feel a little bit stuck in my position because in ICRA, at least, there is not much opportunities after you get a permanent position, so you cannot do more. Like, yeah, you can get projects, but that's like now I have 20 years of research, so I don't know. I'm in a difficult position right now.
And the opportunities you took, were they because, like you said, it was kind of like by accident that they came by and you felt like, okay, this could be a good opportunity you went for it,
Yeah.
or because you actively sought out these opportunities and said, oh, for example, I saw you applying from La Sierra a couple of times, so that's probably something you had on the priority list on top things like did you actively look for them, or was it things that people put on your?
No. Nobody put anything in front. So all the grants, we need to look for them. Nobody was telling me, now you should be applying for a Marie Curie. I didn't know. I didn't know what was a starting grant until she got one. I didn't. Yeah, that's a little bit my regret that we didn't have a mentor as such. So you can do whatever you can to survive until, okay, now maybe it's too late to apply for that. But then, so I think it should be a little bit more mentoring, a little bit more direction to young people so that they know what's out there. And I think that the opportunities are very unequal. So I think that things are moving towards this. So people is more informed, and also the students get much more support than what we got before because we didn't know much.
And maybe last question, sorry, that I've been thinking about. But then I wanted to ask, as a woman, did you feel like you missed out on some of the opportunities? Maybe that is sensitive, but like I don't know if you did got offered as many as.
No, to be honest, no, I never felt that I lost anything for being a woman. Of course, I had 2 kids and that penalized more in a woman than a man, but I also wanted to do that. And I also wanted to stay at home when my kids were sick instead of maybe my husband. So I didn't feel I was losing my job for that. So I always been treated well by employers. And yeah, I never felt I was worse for being a woman. No, I didn't have this feeling.
Okay.